Now, let's kick start with our first session of the day. Whenever it comes to news, there is a question bank, or I would say many questions arises in our minds. Number one and the foremost is, are we getting the actual coverage of news that is showcased on the news television? Secondly, we are focusing upon the selection of sources or not. Then how to ensure whether the various sources are relevant and credible or not. Does news television focus on too many views rather than providing the actual story? What is the importance and relevance of authentic news coverage? I know every one of us want the answers of these questions. So we have with us esteemed set of panelists with us, or I would call them honorable guests, honorable speakers with us today. I would like to welcome on stage, first of all, Dr. Shama Mohamed, who is the National Spokesperson, Indian National Congress. Please welcome, ma'am. May I request you all to please welcome her with a huge round of applause. Along with her, would like to welcome Mr. Rahul Shivshankar, who is the Editorial Director and Editor-in-Chief, Times Now. May I request Mr. Rahul to please come on the stage? We have with us Mr. Rajnish Ahuja, Editor Z News and Chief Content Officer, Z Media Corporation Limited. Please welcome, sir. Along with him, we have Mr. Rajeev Rai, National Secretary and Spokesperson, Samajwadi Party. We have Mr. Shehzad Poonawalla, National Spokesperson, BJP. Please welcome. We have Mr. Zakka Jacob, Managing Editor, CNN News 18. Please welcome, sir. And to chair this session, we have with us Ms. Ravina Kohli, media professional and former president, Star News. Can we have a loud round of applause for all our panelists and our moderator as well? Stage is all yours, Ravina.
All right. So we'll get to it. Like Rahul said, Ravina, it's a busy day. We have protests all over the country. We have huge things to cover on the news channels. So let's get going. Now, I'll focus on a few questions that sort of serve the purpose of getting a quick insight into what's happening in the news business today, in the news industry, what the compulsions are, and the role you feel news is playing, and whether it's doing its job. So what actually is the main point of journalism? I think we all agree that journalism is the ultimate empowerment for citizens. It is the estate that gives citizens perspective and information to make informed choices about their governments, about their societies, and about their worlds. Would you say in today's news environment, the citizen is being well served if journalism is what we're all here for? Rahul, I'll pose this to you.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. We have seen a massive growth in media platforms, and the viewer has so much choice today. You've got news that blares at you from the television set. You can read it. You can look at it anywhere. You're on the move on your mobile phone. You can listen to podcasts when you're walking in Lodi Gardens or running on your treadmill. I think today news is just everywhere. There's just too much of it. And sometimes you just want to log off.
And you would define everything that you see news as news?
Yeah, I mean, look.
On a news platform?
Would we say 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago that we were getting only news? No, I mean, newspapers have been around for years. There's radio. There's no culture of radio in India. But if you were living in the West, there's been talk radio and for decades. And that's influenced more thinking than traditional television. There's talk radio that is sorted on the right and the left, in the middle. Europe lives on radio. Unfortunately, we are not trusted to do radio, but we're trusted to do TV by our great akas in government. So, and I'm not just talking about this government, I'm talking historically. So I think that fundamentally today we are consuming news of various different types, but in a larger proportion. So a smaller incident that took place, for example, in a village would not come to you ever. It may reach you via someone who's actually traveled there. But mass audiences would never know. Today, one tweet is all it takes. It's all over. So I think you can't hide news. You can certainly focus on the stories that you think make news. But whether you put it out or not, someone else is.
So that makes me segue very quickly into my next question, Rahul. Thank you for that. And I'll direct this at Rajnish. I think you've had a very multifaceted career and you would be best placed to sort of kickstart the answer to this question. What would you say are the top 3 agendas in a newsroom today? We've all run newsrooms. What do you think goes on in the news list in today's day and age? What are the top 3 things that get priority?
It's the politics first, most of the time. But there are other soft stories also get at top of the agenda at times. Cricket is always big. Young kids who are watching television or digital, they want to talk about cricket. Whether Dhoni has played well or Virat Kohli has played not well. There are opinions with the young kids also. So that also gets on. Bollywood stories also get on. So it's all depends on the day's agenda, what is happening around. It
But
could be
we all know that
war happening in
lots is happening around, but very few things make it to a news list. And very few things make it to your headlines. So that was my question. You would say politics is still preeminent in the news list. Zakka, would you agree?
No, look, I think I can speak for television. I've never worked in a newspaper. So I think television is a very simple medium. Wherever the best pictures are, that's what decides the news agenda. And I'll give you today's example because it's so fresh. We all started with the Rajya Sabha elections. It's the big political story of the day. From 7 in the morning, we all had reporters out and we were going non-stop at it. And then suddenly, post 12 o'clock, because of news events, because of a picture story, everyone's agenda has changed. Now, is that something that we wished for, or is that something that we manifested, orchestrated? When I mean we, I mean the news media. No, we did not. Those are events that have happened. Is it a newsworthy event? You may ask. According to me, it may be. According to Rahul, it may be. According to somebody else, it may not. But for me, it's a great picture story. So television is a very, very simple medium. We tend to sort of, confuse it with, I'm sorry I'm saying this, I'm actually shooting myself in the foot with top bands and ticker bands and this band and that band. But at the end of the day, it's about the pictures. You have great pictures, that's where you have to be. And that's, frankly, to my mind, that's what decides television rundowns and television priorities. Like I said, I can't speak for other...
But you don't get pictures every day.
We did today. I mean, I'm giving you
today, I'm saying we got today,
yeah,
but
of
not
course.
every day.
Yeah, I'm just saying, again...
Like Rajya Sabha election, there were no pictures.
There was no pictures, but look at the way the agenda changed. I'm just using that example. That politics, of course, I agree with Rajnish, it continues to dominate our lives, our society, and it will continue to dominate the news coverage. But frankly, today I'm using the example of today because just see the way the agenda changed for all news channels just in a course of an hour or two.
So you see, one of the perils of sitting in a news channel and being news director is you've got all your competitors' screens on. And there's this horrendous compulsion. I've seen this even the early years when I was training in Fox and NBC and all of that, that it was all about, oh my God, they've got it, we've got to go there and do it. So do you think this actually serves the citizen? And I will add another question to that question. The famous Dan Rathers of the 60 Minutes show once told me, and I believe he's absolutely right, he's no more. He said news is all about what you can hear on television and less about what you can see. So when Zakka says it's about pictures, I do agree, but I honestly believe this is a country that thinks through its ears. And it becomes absolutely imperative to be able to lead the story through the ears. So this is something which probably also is the reason why the decibel levels of our debates. Now, I know some of you are very restrained and very classy in how you conduct your opinion shows. What do you think as a spokesperson, Shehzad and Rajeev and Shama, when you are invited onto these very high decibel, sometimes highly pointless, I must say, debates, what goes through your mind, and what, in your opinion, is the brief you have for yourself when you come onto this debate? What is you think is your main purpose of being on these debates?
First of all, thank you for organizing this. I'm very happy that people who are usually anchoring us on panels are today part of a panel, so they get to know how it feels. Having said that, I have a bit of a problem with your opening question. I think it's highly loaded. And I think that for you to suddenly forget about what kind of media we've had over the last 50 years, and I have a specific term for them, I call them the NDTP brand of journalism. It stands for New Delhi to Parliament Street. And you might confuse it with another lexicon. But I believe that that kind of journalism where radio tapes was kosher, where you had a lot of people having an incestuous relationship with politics, with power, with institutions of power, that was considered to be very sane media. And today, and colleagues sitting here have spent almost collectively 50 years in the media. Today, they are highlighting the collective aspirations of this country through their platform. If they didn't, they would be not watched as much. And we sit in judgment of them and we say, but do you think you're running your channel right? I think each one has a compulsion to cater to, whether it's a commercial compulsion or whether it is the taste of the audience. But today we have been in an era of democratized media because we have the power of becoming a journalist by this. Thanks to Prime Minister Modi and Digital India, everyone has this. We have the cheapest data in the world, the fastest internet connection. So even if my dear friends Rahul, Rajnish and Zakka did not show anything on their channel, perhaps you may feel they're biased, I can still put it out there and make my voice heard across the country. So I don't think the media needs lectures from anybody, particularly from people in power or sitting in the opposition or in government. I think they do a very fine job in the kind of challenges they have to face and the kind of markets that we are in. And I applaud them for their continuing upholding of this important pillar of democracy. Now, having said that, how do I feel a part of becoming... See, every debate show has its own spirit, its own taste. My job out there is not to go and cater to Rahul's taste or to Rajnish's taste or to Zakka's taste. My job out there is to represent what I represent, that is the Bharatiya Janata Party, the ideology of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the work done by my government, and whatever we represent and stand for. And therefore, my job doesn't change which channel I am on. I could be on Rahul's show, I could be on Zakka's show. The content that I have to deliver is about what we are doing. People are holding us accountable through these platforms because we are answerable to people who elect us. Obviously, we are also answerable through elections, which we have won 4 out of 5. But we feel that these are platforms for accountability, and therefore, I applaud it when Zakka or Rajnish's anchors or Rahul questions us night after night. And yes, some get more boisterous because sometimes there are people who don't have answers. And then when they don't have answers, they lack answers, they try to raise their voice in a debate. But as far as I can see, my colleagues who are partners in crime in this with me, Rajeev ji and Shama and I, we try to raise our arguments rather than raise our voice.
Right. So, thank you for that very well thought through answer. You always have your facts and your data in place. I know this about you, Shehzad. Well done, thank you. Shama and Rajeev, would you like to say that through the format of political debate, which primarily sort of occupies most of prime time in today's news formats, and given the fact that the West and the people who started these news formats are now moving away slowly from them and getting back into more factual reportage instead of opinion, do you think opinion on a news channel serves the citizen? And when you come on as a spokesperson, what is in your mind when you're representing the Congress party and you come on and you are with your opposing, your opposition parties and your opposing parties? What goes on in your mind primarily vis-a-vis the citizen, because I know you are very deeply interested in empowerment. You've been a journalist. Your work, has a lot of conscience in what you do professionally. So my question now is to you.
See, before I come to that, I want to speak on what Rahul said as well as Zakka.
Sure.
Rahul mentioned one thing, that radio is important. And in India it is not, but radio could also do damage. Let's not forget what happened in 1994 in Rwanda. Radio Rwanda, every other day was going on, the Hutus saying, go kill those Tutsi cockroaches. Go kill those Tutsi cockroaches. Now what happens is, Rahul, myself, you, or for that matter, Shehzad, anybody here, we are all intelligent. We will not get instigated. But there are so many out there who are illiterate and get instigated. And when you want to change your track, they will not change that track. They will go on with that same track, with that same hatred. And that's why the genocide, one of the main reasons for the genocide was Radio Rwanda. So let's understand that. So what I want to say is, let's not propagate any sort of hate. Whether any channel it is, let it be unbiased. And a journalist, an anchor, should go with facts. What is happening out there? What are the facts? Go with it, be neutral. Yes, everybody has a bias. Bias is not a problem, but let's not have hate. That's number one. Number two, Zakka said there are good pictures today. There are good, there are these pictures which speak. But the pictures, the pictures can come out, but it's a story. Who tells the story? The television, the producer, the anchor are the ones who are going to tell the story. Now, we've seen pictures from Jahangir Puri, but then I saw headlines. What was the headline? Justice. What is that thing called? I can't remember the name. But the bulldozer, correct? The bulldozer justice. So those sort of headlines, and then I don't want to name anybody. I saw a particular anchor on the bulldozer, very excited. Would you do that, Ravina? You've been in news, being inside the bulldozer, innocent people, their homes are being demolished, shops are being demolished. These things are the ones which I feel should not be there. Now, for example, he mentioned something about portals. You have the YouTube, news is not necessary from news channels. So for that, I would just quote Justice Ramana, who said, criticized the communalization of the Tablighi Jamaat gathering incident in Delhi during the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic by some media outlets. The Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, said, I don't know why this is going on. Everything is given a communal angle. Web portals are not under the control of anybody. If you go to YouTube, you can see how much fake news and false information is circulating. So that's the other part. When you
So sorry to interrupt. Would you say then, when you come on to a news channel, your primary role you feel as a national spokesperson for the Congress Party would be to sort of neutralize a hate agenda that you perceive? Is that what is in
No. I
your
was
mind?
just speaking on what they said. Now, when I come as a spokesperson for my party, it is to speak for my party. What is my party line?
Yeah, okay.
I would speak for what is exactly the party line which has been told to me, and go with facts. Like you mentioned, it is important to go with facts. If I have a party line, and I have to speak on a question, or when the anchor is Zakka, or for that matter, Rahul, we need to go with facts to say. So it's very important that one goes ahead with facts and not just speak whatever. And also in a very composed manner, without being personal with anybody, without belittling anybody, and tell your facts out. That is what I would do.
Right.
That's how I represent my party.
So one of the most important things we learned as news producers, as news bosses, was balance. We always said, put balance out in your story. Would you say in today's news environment, we are seeing enough balance in by and large? I know some of us are more conscious of it than others, but would you say, as spokespersons or as anchors, as editors?
Can I just take one line? Sorry to interrupt you. I think balance is overrated. It has to be about, would you have a balance when there is a story about somebody raping a minor, and one side says, I want to defend the rapist? Is that the balance you want? So Rahul should say 10 seconds for the rapist side and then 10 seconds for the minor. No, 1 second. It's not about balance.
Comes that way,
1 second. You're not the anchor of the show. No, I don't think there's any need to laugh. This is not about balance. Zakka Rahul and Rajnish, I think when they trained in journalism school, and even I trained and I worked as a journalist, your idea is to the idea of justice and to idea of fairness. It's not about balance. Balancing is, a monkey can do that on a trampoline. You don't expect them to be balanced when the story is about your nation, when the story is about the lives of people, when the story is about girls being raped and the rapist not being caught. I don't think there can be balance to that story. You have to reflect the fairness in that story. So I think
So
balance
is fairness,
overrated.
is fairness not overrated, clearly? Balance is, according to you. Balance is overrated.
No, but there can't be a balance when you're talking about anti-India stories. So there has to be, when there are anti-India, anti-national
Yeah.
stories happening, you can't have a balance.
By and large, we say that good journalism has balance. You always hear the other side of the story. Obviously, a heinous crime will not have balance in its reportage.
Yeah, but we always try to have the other side of the story.
Yes. So my question was, do you feel enough of that is happening?
But if the Chinese side is not giving the true story, so what should we do? Then the global media, global times, whatever it puts out,
Yeah.
we have to go by that.
Okay. So which brings me to my next... yes, Zakka, please.
Add one thing. When you talk about balance, I assume you're talking about, let's say, politically sensitive stories or socio-cultural stories,
Yes, of
which
course.
there are two sides to the story. Now, you tell me, is it the fault of the media channels if, and I'm being very generic here, if, let's say, Shama's party has decided not to send their spokespersons to some channels, and today Shehzad's party has decided that on certain topics we won't come, that can't be on us, right? So, and then you say, oh, there's only one side, one set of guests who are talking, the other side is not there. So I think somewhere that also needs to be addressed.
So Zakka, that is very true on a debate, in a multi-window debate. But if you were reporting on just a story, a factual story, my question is more about the more traditional format of news reportage. Would you say that all the four pillars of democracy today stand on equal legs? Media,
Well, I think
executive,
that's a question that goes
legislature,
far,
judiciary.
far
It's
beyond.
a huge question,
Yeah,
but
it's
there is a
much
reason why
bigger,
I'm asking.
larger,
It has a wider implication.
I am asking
almost
it.
a
It's the mother of all
societal
questions.
kind of a question. I don't think I, as a journalist, am qualified to talk about
No, what
whether
do you
the
think?
executive,
Okay,
legislature,
we are
and
not going to
judiciary are in
comment on
balance.
it. Let me ask the politicians over here. Rajeev ji.
First, I reply your first question. When as a spokesperson, we go to the channels.
Yes.
From being an opposition party, we have a very tough challenge now. We go mentally prepared that I'm not going to face only ruling party spokesperson, but there are numbers of people there. I'm being very candid and honest. Most of you people may not like of, लेकिन मुझे पता है सब दिल से यही जानते हैं. Now, both of them were discussing about balancing. News media is 24/7 now happening.
Yeah.
Balancing in one particular story and balancing throughout the day about the different things happening in the country. अभी टेनिस बोल रहे थे चाइना अगर स्टोरी नहीं दे रहा है, ये भी होता है कि जब चाइना आपके यहाँ आ रहा है या चाइना आपको ट्रबल कर रहा है, तो स्टोरी कहीं और दिन भर चलती है कि वो स्टोरी जनता को ना पहुँचे. I'm not blaming any one of you sitting here,
No.
but this is the fact for most of the channel. Now, when Rajeev Rai or Shama goes to the debate, we have one Shehzad.
Who's very well prepared.
I mean, Shehzad means anybody from BJP.
Yes.
He's been very nice. It's nothing. All these two, I think Zakka and Rahul, I have participated.
Yes.
We never had a problem. I never had to raise my voice. But एक शहजाद है, एक सो कॉल्ड राजनीतिक विश्लेषक हैं, एक सो कॉल्ड न्यूट्रल जर्नलिस्ट हैं, और कभी कभी तीनों के बराबर एंकर है. This is the truth. When you start giving the facts, what is my job? What I feel, where my party believes, what I feel is true story or other side of the story. आप बोल रहे थे ना, other side of the story. When I want to start, I want to speak, I want to bring it. Most of the time, आप सोच रहे होंगे कि प्राइमरी स्कूल के बच्चे की तरह शिकायतें करने लगा, लेकिन सच न बोलने से घुटन भी होती है. The moment you start, the question will be switched over to other person. That is the, I'll tell you. Now, kind of journalism you are seeing nowadays. अभी यूक्रेन में क्या हो रहा है? The kind of journalism, dancing, jumping, making it very sensational, that is a journalism. यूक्रेन में आपने देखा ना, मैं किसी का नाम नहीं लेना चाहता हूँ, जिस तरह से उछल कूद जैसे वहाँ लोग मर रहे हैं, वहाँ लाशें बिछ रही है, वहाँ गोली बम चल रहे हैं, और आप क्या जर्नलिज्म कर रहे हैं वहाँ? You accept or you may feel like you may get angry on me, but I feel the credibility of news channels or news media is at its lowest at the time. This time. Why?
Okay.
ज़्यादा मैं
Please, please.
न्यूज़ क्या है? Event happens, something good or bad happens, you show and speak. आप तो जजमेंट पास करने लगते हैं. शहजाद was telling nobody should preach or give lecture. Supreme Court and judges are lecturing media. You can dare to say that you don't have business to teach us, you don't have business to tell us how we should do the reporting. Reporting has to be balanced in both the things, in a particular story and the events happening around throughout the day. आप किसी चीज़ को साइड करना चाहते हैं, किसी चीज़ को नहीं दिखाना चाहते हैं, तो दूसरी चीज़. अब इस देश में मैं कोई जजमेंट नहीं पास कर. इतने दिनों से ज्ञान वापी और काशी मंदिर के अलावा कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है, कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है. आप पता करिए लद्दाख में क्या हो रहा है, पता करिए क्या हो रहा है, आप डिबेट करिए उस पर.
So if I
No,
may...
just
yeah,
one second.
Yes,
Hang on,
Rahul.
hang on. You know,
Yes,
look,
yes.
look. I'm not speaking now in specifics. For example, I was just told that radio will spread hate. Have we forgotten that we live now in a world where there is Facebook, there's Twitter, unregulated WhatsApp media? They get to everybody much faster than radio would ever travel. You still need a device, and your phone sometimes doubles up as a radio. So let's not just say that radio resulted in, the hate.
Genocide, whatever.
It happened in one country. 190 to the last counted. Today, every government is worried about the influence of unregulated media. The last elections, many people said, was decided on WhatsApp. At least when I sit in an editorial meeting, we have colleagues around us, all senior people, and we discuss. Now, to say that everyone is co-opted is ridiculous. And we discuss the news, we apply filters, we're answerable to a regulatory authority, and we get pulled up from time to time. I've got pulled up for something I did. But when we get up in the mornings, what do? As citizens, some chap will send you a WhatsApp, be full of facts. My mother often sends me, is this true? I said, this is absolutely not true. But by that time, the damage is done, because not everybody has a Rahul Shivshankar who's in the news media as a son or a daughter or a sister or what have you to check. And a lot of people will think that that is the god-awful fact. In Sri Lanka, Facebook created violence between Muslims and Buddhists, Hindus and Muslims. And I'll tell you the example of it. There was a restaurant, a very famous restaurant in Sri Lanka that was serving a kind of dal, which was prepared by the chef. That's traditional dal. It was said that the chef was spitting in that dal. And the person was lynched, and it led to large-scale violence. So just one example. Look at what's happening to Hindus in Bangladesh, for example. Over one so-called photo of somebody putting a Quran in, a place where it should not have been placed. Hindus were butchered left, right, and center. You've had mosques in Srinagar that issued calls to violence, and a whole community was externed. That was not radio. So look, hate lives all around us. And for some political parties, let me open this up. Let's get to the heart of the matter. This is not just Hindu-Muslim hate. Hate lives in many different ways in this country. The Shiv Sena today is a party that was flagged by the Sri Krishna report as being a communal party. Its spokespersons, Sanjay Raut, have said that Muslims should not be allowed to vote in this country. 2015. He said this. Who are the Shiv Sena's partners today in power? Same Sanjay Raut said in 2017, we brought down the Babri Masjid in 15 minutes. 17 minutes, actually. Is that not hateful? The DMK says that we are going to exterminate Brahmins. Who are its partners today? That's hateful. The ISF is a force in Bangladesh, in Bengal, run by a cleric. And that cleric gets coalition partners. Tarun Gogoi said about the AUDF, we will never tie up with this sectarian organization. 4 years later, a particular party did and contested the election. Now, should we cancel all these parties? Should I not invite the Shiv Sena? Because if I can't invite, for example, hate-monger BJP Nupur Sharma, then why should I be inviting the DMK or the Shiv Sena or Yasin Malik? Heard of him? You guys know Yasin Malik? You know what Yasin Malik told a journalist in the BBC? That he killed Hindus. But he was made a stakeholder by all governments in the peace process. And he was invited by television channels to be part of debates as the true voice of Kashmir. Should we have cancelled him? And what about those people who fraternized with him? The PDP was in alliance with the BJP. We pulled the BJP apart. A Hindu was just killed. We pulled the BJP apart for doing nothing. You can look at my Twitter timeline. So I just want to say that it's all very well for the opposition to sort of gripe about media, loaded media, this media, that media, and वो तो वही दिखाते हैं, ये नहीं दिखाते. भैया आप देखते भी तो हो. मत देखिए.
Rahul,
One second, I haven't finished, please.
देखते
Do
भी और
not watch.
participate भी करते हैं.
नहीं, I'm not talking about the opposition, I'm talking about the viewer. जब रेटिंग आता है तो कोई 30% पे TV9 भारतवर्ष एक चैनल है. आप यूक्रेन की बात कर रहे हैं सर. They do only Ukraine stories. And they're the #1 Hindi news channel today.
And they do it the whole day.
They do that the whole day.
Exactly.
So, hang on. Just let me finish, sir. I haven't said anything personal about anybody here. I just want to finish my point. So, I think, some people here believe that only they have the right to be offended. No one else has a right to be offended. So let's, start speaking with a little bit of depth. Now, Ravina ji, you were part of television. Didn't you do those bhoot stories, ghost stories on mountaintops, etc., etc., and that bhoot Bangla stories, or was that under Uday Shankar ji?
Not under me, sorry.
Okay, good. Because I remember...
I missed out, sorry.
No, that's wonderful, actually. So, there were channels 15 years ago that were running. I joined Headlines Today. We launched it. 50% of the time we were doing at that time in Headlines Today, and Zakka was there. He was one of the founding members of Headlines Today. A lot of us were doing a lot of entertainment stories. And then, later on, Headlines Today started doing at 9 o'clock debates about Khali. Khali. See? The great Khali. I remember those shows. I remember watching Star News in 2007. In fact, I was just speaking to a colleague of mine yesterday who's in my newsroom, who worked with some of you. And she remembers someone sort of pulling her leg about doing the news. And she said, at least she actually referred to an instance where, how do you kill a kutta with a sarp and kutte ki ladai? It went on for half an hour. And it wasn't even real snake and real dog. It was animated dog and snake. That was news. And now we are told that we don't do the news. We're talking about 15 years ago. Same conversation could have been had 15 years ago, but none of you asked that question. Aap sab dekh rahe the. There are leading English and Hindi news channels that play for half an hour a show on the viral, bizarre WhatsApp videos. Come on, yaar. जब आपके पास वीडियो आते हैं, आप देखते नहीं हो क्या वो? आपको कभी-कभी तो हमारा शक्ल देखने से you like to watch those videos. So let's put this in perspective. Look, newspapers are highly opinionated. In the West, the great New York Times, they support a presidential candidate.
Oh, yeah.
They endorse them.
Even Fox News
Washington,
and CNN.
Washington,
Completely.
The Brexit debate was split between the Spectator
But
that
you know,
I
the
read.
difference is, Rahul, they are very open and honest
No,
about
I
it.
mean, 1 second. I'm coming to this third
Yeah.
part, which is the most important part.
Yes.
Okay, debates are bad. Shor hai, sharab hai.
Debates are not bad. We introduced
Let me
them.
finish. You said
Based
that
on Mr. Bill
it's
O'Reilly.
opinion and they're pointless or something. Pointless debates. Look, let me be honest with
Some
you.
are.
I'm talking about news media here.
Yes.
There is one basic fact. You can't build a convincing argument, quote unquote, convincing argument without having the hard facts. You can be a great rhetorician without facts.
Yes.
There are some who are rhetoricians. I do not disagree with you. But they're putting their neck out every night. People don't want to watch them, they can switch to another fact-based, opinion-based debate. So the choice ultimately is the viewers. People are giving a whole recipe, a whole menu of styles, anchors. The Jerry Springer of news TV is very much here in India. We also have the extremely sort of Dan Rather sort of, staid news
Yes.
presenter.
Yes.
I think that's great. Which country gives you such a buffet? It gives you chili chicken and it also gives you butter chicken. Zabardast hai, boss. I would love to live in a country like that.
But honestly, I mean, the debate format was really created also, not just to sort of have an opportunity for facts to be debated upon, but also to fill the newsreel. It's the cheapest way sometimes of actually filling the newsreel. It has become of primary importance.
Say that about the newspaper. Do you know how many
No,
people
no.
I worked in the Times of India edit page? We used to remember 1% of the total viewership, readership of Times of India used to read the edit page, and I said, also we are filling this with opinion that no one is reading. That's
But
not
that
true.
has not,
That's
that,
not
that
true.
has not stopped news channels to do ground reporting.
Yes, it hasn't. But it's become something that is preeminently there in everybody's mind. You're identifying news channels.
Ravina ji,
Why
Can I
these?
just add one
want to
point?
add
Rahul talked about this.
Yeah.
See, it's easy to sort of pillory the news channels, but at the end of the day, it's also the easiest medium to switch off from. You have the remote. The viewer has the remote in his or her hand. If they don't like what they're seeing, they switch off. I just want to add one. I saw this on Twitter yesterday. Gannett, which holds, I think, the highest number of newspaper titles in the world. They have about 250 of them. They have sent an advisory based on feedback from their readers that they want to see less opinion pages on newspapers. They want more reportage. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If that's what the readers in the US and places around the world want, that's fine. They should cater to that. If tomorrow news viewers here in India want less of opinion, believe you me, Ravina ji, we'll be the first ones to cut down on opinion. We are at the end of the day answerable to what people want. If people are not watching us, trust me, we will, we'll be the first ones to cut the opinion shows and run.
Ravina ji, the problem right now after 2014, before 2014, it was always the corruption issues of the government. Even though there are corruption issues now, it's always the opposition which is attacked. That is the issue. Now, I've been looking, whenever a day comes, the gas price from our time, 420 to 1,000. That day, I would wait for the discussion on gas price. It would not come on. Petrol price crossed 100. Rupee has fallen today again, 77 to the dollar. But there's no discussion on that. It is all communal issues. I have a chart here, and can I just finish my point, please? Because I waited for all of them. I have a chart here which says the ratings, prime time TV tracker. All right. May 2022, 65% communal, 1% LPG price rise. April 22, 24% on communal, 7% on petrol price rise. Primetime tracker, March 22, Kashmir files 20%, 8% fuel hike. So, primetime tracker, December 21, 22% on communal. So, what is happening? And it also says that 66% on religion for anchors. Now, this is a tracker. My issue basically is that there are such important issues, all right? And the unemployment rate is 8%. We have inflation high right now. The private investments taken out of our country is billions of dollars. We don't have jobs, but we don't discuss these things. We have gone back now to Gyan Vyapi. It's opened up. So what is happening here? He mentioned a very important thing about America. In America, very important, when the CNN reporter was chucked out of a press conference of Trump, what happened? He went to Supreme Court. Even Fox News, a right-wing organization, stood with the reporter. There, the media always stood its ground, whatever said and done. And that's why Trump was out. Here, the media has become all one-sided, and the questions are always asked to the opposition. That is the problem. The establishment or the present government has to be asked the questions. That's what we're saying. Like he mentioned, when I go to a debate, there is an anchor, there is an analyst who's pro-establishment, there is another person, and so I fight three people, and your volume is, and you're not given a chance. You are, when I'm interrupted multiple times, but the BJP person is given enough time. This is the issues we are facing.
So this is why I asked the first question of what are the top 3 agendas in the country today. And Rajnish very rightly said, all of you agreed, we all agree, it's politics, it's cricket, and it's Bollywood. Shehzad has a counter to you.
No, that's...
Did you agree with that?
No, I didn't even speak.
Sorry,
Look,
please do.
Look, hang on. Let's just rewind. A week back, the biggest story in America was the killing of little children. Yeah? Gun debate, right? You think at prime time, people would have focused on rising inflation in America, which is a global phenomena today. Inflation is a global phenomenon.
But it is...
In fact, see, Shama ji, look.
Finish.
No, Shama ji, I'm only saying that आप तो हमारे चैनल पे ही नहीं आते.
हम आते नहीं क्योंकि आप हमें समय नहीं देते उस पे.
देखिए सब टीएमसी को समय मिलता है, आपको समय मिलता है, शिवसेना को भी समय मिलता है, टीएमके को भी समय मिलता है. कितने पार्टीज आ रहे हैं, नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस को मिलता है.
Is it too much
PDP को
politics?
मिलता है.
मैं इनका एक हेडलाइन बता दूंगी. Congress manifesto accessed. Shock assault on secularism. Muslims pitted against Hindus. This is your...
Yeah, we got your point. You're not wrong.
That is not...
Honestly, and we're not here to pillory the news, Zakka, at all. We're just discussing, honestly, a lot of these questions are reflecting what people...
Let me say. You see, I just want to bring out a fact.
That's the headline which affects us.
One second. Let's take a deep breath. The fact of the matter is this. If there is a massive protest happening in the country, and there was a massive Kisan protest, how many hours of news TV were devoted to that? You must know. Pretty much every night.
No, you gave time, but you called them terrorists, anti-national, anti-Indians, and this is what.
I call them terrorists.
I mean, you means not Rahul.
No, I'm just saying.
It's not
please,
Rahul.
Look, there are channels who will take a position. There will be channels who won't take a position.
Rahul,
there will be channels.
one thing, because you spoke...
I think, sorry to just interrupt. I think what
Rahul,
Shama is trying to say is the news priority needs to be a little balanced. That's all the point she tried to make, and Shehzad.
The news
channel is like the front page of a newspaper. They have a limited space.
Headline.
It's not even
Why
news.
is
You tell me, Shama, how many newspapers have carried a story on inflation on the front page?
आपको एक सवाल पूछूंगी. Why? I agree. You have to put out what is happening. But I don't want to see a headline. Congress manifesto accessed. Shock assault on secularism. Muslims pitted against Hindus. Why do we have to get Hindu, Muslim?
Because your
every other
manifesto-
day that is the story nowadays in India. That is my issue.
Ma'am,
That's called decibel level.
One second.
Sorry. No, let's just get to what the...
I'll tell you what the
Yeah,
facts
Rahul
are.
make a point.
During the
Shehzad
Tablighi
needs-
thing,
Shehzad
Muslims
wants
are
to
spitting
come
on
in
the
also,
food. So
and
I
would
was
like
asked by
Zakka
someone,
to,
madam,
come in on this.
Muslims are spitting onto the food. I was asked, honestly. I was shocked. I said, it's
Shama
not
ji,
that.
One second. Shama
You know, it affects... I have a Mohamed as the surname.
I just want to say something. Look, let's just, first of all, not make this particular about people and channels, etc. Now, if you want me to go down that
It's not. This is the
hole-
news television
so
summit. We're just discussing...
Let me take an example which is very close to home. I'll tell you why. Because it's just an event that 6 months ago was pretty much occupying everyone's attention, which was the farmers' protest just before the elections. Now, it's a fact. You can run away from it, but it's a fact that the Congress supported sweeping reforms in their manifesto. After a 20-year discussion that went on in Parliament and through the creation of a large number of councils that were formed with expert groups, etc., to say that farm reforms will benefit.
What is the thing? The clause is with multiple APMCs. That they do not say.
I think we were talking about the
farm reforms with multiple APMCs.
So what happens is, if someone points that out, okay, now you can argue that point back. If someone points that out, you're called Godi media. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I started off in print, and I was an assistant editor in the Times of India edit page. I started out as a reporter. I was promoted 3 times and got into the edit page. Whether I was fit to be there or not, it's very different. This thing, I was very young. I was probably the youngest in the history of this country to be on the edit page. And I believe certain things. I believe that Article 370 should go. I believe that we should have a UCC. I wrote about it. It's there for posterity. Today, if a government is doing that, am I going to do a flip just because I need to be with the opposition? Exactly. So what is happening is, if you're ideologically aligned to a cause here or a cause there, on a burning issue, immediately you're not seeing it as objective. Now, I personally, I'm just talking about my show, India Upfront. I run a promo. And I say, I have an opinion. I'm very upfront. But I base it on hard facts. I list the facts, both sides. But as a good lawyer, I can then come to an opinion. Both sides in a case have the same charge sheet and the same FIR, but they argue very differently. One for innocence, one for guilt. So all I'm saying is that you can't then say that the anchor was being absolutely honest in his promo and telling people that I have an opinion based on hard facts, because hard fact makes for
like
a
we say,
persuasive argument.
he's,
You can't
even
shoot
directed,
the messenger.
even
And
paid
there is also a
media.
misnomer, ma'am.
So
We have
Ravina-
29 states in this country. Each one of them is run by disparate governments, not just by the BJP. You can't ask those governments a question anymore, because if you do, guess what happens?
No, but
There'll be an
Ravina ji,
FIR, you will go to jail. The journalists in that state are treated like doormats. You should see the state of state media. And I'm telling you this, and across states, I'm not talking about just BJP or this or that. It's across media. Now, it depends on you. You want to stand up to it, you should. But we can't be seen to be fighting the opposition's battles.
nobody's asking you to see.
You
He said,
can't
no,
become
Ravina,
advocate to the government.
Ravina ji, one
You cannot
important
become
point.
advocate to the government also.
One important point. Let me just finish this, and then he can go on. He said that we go on hard facts. Now, what about the Tablighi Jamaat incident where it was complete on all television?
Can I,
let me just finish it.
Shama.
The spread of COVID was happening due to them. Now, and then that is not hard facts, because who gave them permission to be there, to get into that? Of course, the Delhi government. So if your facts are based, you have to base on hard facts, and these are wrong information, which the Supreme Court came out heavily on, came down heavily on, saying
one
that
second. The Supreme Court said that these people should return. No one said
but
they were innocent. No, hang on.
nobody
There
said
was a
they're
very big
innocent. I
difference.
just read out what he
No,
said.
one second.
Spreading communal-
Madam,
Guys,
madam,
okay,
just be
after
honest.
clarify this, can I just move on? Because otherwise you guys will never get back to your newsrooms, and Zakka
Yeah,
is
I know.
looking
I
very
need to
impatient.
get back. Actually, it's already.
Off this, we are very friendly.
No,
but
no.
we just
You know
telling
what?
our
I
facts.
don't. What? It's great that it's all steamy and lovely, and I'm really happy that some of you have had a chance to say the things to the industry where maybe misconceptions exist or whatever. But Zakka needs to come in.
Look, yeah,
And
I'll
so
just
I'm
give me-
gonna give you my mic, Shehzad.
You can take Ravina ji's mic. I just need 30 seconds. Look, I can't speak for anyone else. I can speak for my channel, CNN News 18. I can speak for the show that I do. And both Shehzad and Shama have repeatedly come. And I don't think you have that many complaints. I would presume that you don't have that many complaints, because I try my best to give as much time as I give to Shehzad, to Shama as well. I do not subscribe to the format. I still do a debate show. But I do not subscribe to the format that the anchor needs to decide, what is the line, and the anchor then needs to sort of harden that line on the show. I believe that both Shehzad and Shama have a point of view. My job as an anchor is to ensure that both of them get as much or equal time. And I confess, we don't do a perfect job of it. On most nights, it is a difficult job, but we are trying, right? And that's all we can do, to try and give adequate time to both the opposition and to the ruling party. But here's my limited, and that's a format that I believe in. I'm not saying that all debate shows should be like that. There can be other debate shows where the anchor believes that his voice needs to be the front and center and the most important. And frankly, if you don't like watching it, don't watch it. It's as simple as that. I come back to that. The viewer has the remote in his or her hand. All you need to do is to switch channels. But here's what my problem is. And I want to ask, it's not a problem, it's just a genuine query. Just taking forward what Rahul said about, the media is expected to fight the opposition's battles. LPG prices are going up, petrol prices are going up. I want to ask Shama's party, how many times have you hit the road? How many times have you held Parliament hostage for this? How many times has Rahul Gandhi come out and protested at Vijay Chowk for these petrol prices going up? Because if you do, and I believe me, and I keep saying this, television is a visual medium. If there's enough of a visual spectacle that you can create, like the BJP did in 2012-13, we will cover it.
You know what?
We will cover it, but you guys are not doing it.
That's we have protested, but you don't cover it.
That's not true.
Issue.
That is not true.
That is the issue.
Singularly, every single time Rahul Gandhi has come out to Vijay Chowk or to Parliament, out on the streets to talk about an issue, if there's enough of a visual spectacle there, television news will cover it and has covered it.
So before 2014, you're saying Narendra Modi came out on every street. Of
That's
course,
not the
senior
point.
leaders come. It's
No,
not necessary.
no,
Rahul
that's not
Gandhi
the
has to
point.
come for everything.
Shama, the
I'm
point
sorry.
is. Shama, the point
I
is.
can see Narendra Modi everywhere.
Okay,
you cannot put every time Rahul Gandhi hona chahiye, yahan Rahul Gandhi hona chahiye.
Privately,
there are the senior leaders.
Even you will admit that the BJP and opposition makes much more of a hue and cry about issues that matter than you guys do in opposition. It's as simple as that.
10 seconds.
I'm giving the BJP my mic. That doesn't mean anything.
You see, the biggest disservice that we do is that we feel that the media should do our job and we will party in Kathmandu. This is not how politics can work. Let's be very clear about it. If all of these issues that have been listed, कि LPG पे debate नहीं हुआ, inflation पे debate नहीं हुआ, petrol पे debate नहीं हुआ, तो आप मुझे ये बोल रहे हैं कि 4 राज्य में जो जीत हुई है, 5 राज्य के चुनाव थे, 4 में हमारी जीत हुई है, ये सारे जगह निपट गए, तो क्योंकि डिबेट राहुल शिवशंकर ने 8 बजे डिबेट नहीं की और रजनीश जी ने 5 बजे, एक सेकंड, 5 बजे डिबेट नहीं की और जाका ने 9 बजे डिबेट नहीं की, इसलिए पांचों स्टेट में निपट गए. मतलब दिस इज द मोस्ट बिगेस्ट इंसल्ट ऑन द पीपल्स विजडम. अरे आपकी जेब को असर पड़ेगा whether Rahul debates it or Rahul debates something else or Zakka debates something else. आपकी जेब को जो असर पड़ेगा उसी के आधार पर आप वोट करेंगे. तो to question first you question data, then you question everything, but you don't question your beta. नहीं आपके पास सारे जवाब है पर वो जवाब जनता नहीं मान रही है. जनता आपका जवाब नहीं मान रही है. उसके लिए आप देखिए
I just want to answer this.
इस प्रकार से डिबेट नहीं होती ना.
नहीं डिबेट नहीं है. इसके बाद में बता दूंगी.
Can I at least complete?
Yeah, finish.
It's good manners. मैनर्स ही अच्छे होते हैं कि अगर आप दूसरों की सुन ले. देखिए प्रॉब्लम क्या है ना इस देश में, गोदी मीडिया को तो मुझे नहीं पता, पर कुछ लोग जोड़ी मीडिया के बहुत आदी हो चुके हैं कि हम जो चाहे वही दिखाया जाए. 60 वर्ष तक जोड़ी मीडिया चलता रहा कि जोड़ी के साथ उनको 25 वर्ष का प्रोग्राम होता था तो राष्ट्रपति भवन में होता था, कैबिनेट डिसाइड होता था तो एक जर्नलिस्ट फोन कॉल पे डिसाइड करती थी. इस प्रकार से जोड़ी मीडिया होता था. तो अब जोड़ी मीडिया रहा नहीं क्योंकि सोशल मीडिया भी है. जो आवाज निकलनी है चाहे जाका राहुल रजनीश दिखाए ना दिखाए वो तो बाहर आनी है. अब तो ये कुछ लोगों को हजम नहीं हो पा रहा. दूसरी बात, डिबेट ट्रैकर करने से अच्छा जाका का ट्रैकर, राहुल का ट्रैकर, आप राहुल गांधी का ट्रैकर निकालिए और देखिए कि वो कहां पर है. नहीं राहुल गांधी का ट्रैक क्यों नहीं आप अपने लीडर के देखो. ऐसा है, प्रॉब्लम ये है, दे हैव प्रॉब्लम विद डेटा नॉट विद बेटा. This can't be helped by news channels. News channels can come and do every day that inflation is high, but if the people are saying no, under Manmohan Singh it was 10%, now it is 7.5% despite the fact that there are global factors. Can Rahul Shivshankar do anything about it?
Can I come in?
No, 1 second. And there are many people who do 9 p.m. shows on your side also. There are many people. Now people don't watch them. It's not our fault that people don't watch them. You know, there are many people. कुछ लोग हैं, शाहरुख ने गोली चलाई. दिल्ली दंगों में शाहरुख को अनुराग बना दिया और कहा कि अनुराग ने गोली चलाई। अब आप जानते हैं ऐसी रबिश रिपोर्टिंग भी करते हैं लोग। प्रॉब्लम इनकी ये है कि एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी और उनकी जोड़ी मीडिया को डस्टबिन ऑफ इररेलेवेंस में कास्ट अवे कर दिया है, तो इनसे ये पच नहीं पा रहा और इसके लिए हम जिम्मेदार नहीं। और हाँ, मैं रोज डिबेट में जाता हूं, उस डिबेट में एक विश्लेषक होता है, तो उस डिबेट में समाजवादी, आम आदमी, कांग्रेस जो एक ही लाइन बोलती है वो है बीजेपी का विरोध, मोदी का विरोध, वो भी 3 लोग बैठे होते हैं, ये आपको नहीं बताएंगे। तो आई थिंक rather than lecturing people who are doing their jobs, you run your party well and let them run their channels the way they are running. I think that should be the discourse for the evening.
I'm going to give you an incident. I was in Bombay, and you know what happened? I was in a taxi, and it was just before the UP elections. So he said, "Madam, वहाँ तो problems बहुत है, समस्या है बहुत वहाँ यूपी में, लेकिन न्यूज़ चैनल में सब बता रहे हैं कि बीजेपी जीत जाएगी, वो अच्छी कर रहा है, सब कुछ उनका काम बहुत अच्छा है." See, you don't understand, Shehzad. Me and you are not. No, they are saying that the Mahal. No. The news channels are talking about how well the Bharatiya Janata Party is doing. See, there is definitely an influence on the people, the public, on what is happening and what the new, how when they are one establishment, it spreads. Like he says, there are WhatsApp universities.
राहुल गांधी की हार के लिए ज़ाका जेकब, राहुल शिवशंकर और हमारे रजनीश जी जिम्मेदार हैं। Please. ये राहुल गांधी हारा है ना, वो इसके लिए 3 लोग बैठे हैं।
Please, I'm not talking about that. I'm not getting into that.
Can I move this debate out from this? You know, we have to, because we're talking about the industry. Honestly,
that's what I was just saying. How people get influenced by it.
People get influenced by films also. People
but
get
I think nowadays much more with.
It's getting to prime time, and my last question to all of you here, because this is something that came up from the public. So I would like each of you to have a shot at the answer. There's nothing personal about these debates, okay? We are talking about the issue at a summit. And whatever we have said, we've all said because we believe it. Do you think today, Rajnish, Rahul, Zakka, to start with, is news directed at you, or is it your choice to pick it up based on your judgment? This is a misconception or a conception that is out there in the public. I would like to address this head on.
So directed at you by who? Why?
Is news directed, or is it based on fact?
No, I'm not directed as in, like, is it like a movie
is
production?
Is it suggested?
Are we doing fiction?
Is it suggested? Not movie fiction.
No, but suggested by, I mean, why didn't you complete the sentence? Suggested
So
by who?
Ravina, I'll step in here to help.
Okay.
There is an entire army of spin doctors across every political party, across corporations, who are spinning news towards all of us, including my company. So that's what she's saying.
Our news judgment is based on our editorial meeting that happens at noon. And the only people who attend that meeting are CNN News 18 employees. There's not one spin doctor, politician, spokesperson, pravakta. There's nobody in that meeting. In that meeting, we decide these are the 3-4 stories that we want to focus on. And I assume that's the same for Rahul as well.
Great, thanks. That's good.
No telephone calls come to y'all?
Rahul.
Anyway,
Rahul. No.
Certainly.
This is an important thing to talk about as people in the business.
Look, I've been
I've been
managing.
calls come from both sides, not from the one side.
No, one second. I've been managing CNN News 18 since 2020. I have not got, in the last 2 years plus, a single call from any politician, opposition or ruling to say, do this as your debate today. Not one.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's a great clarification, Rahul.
I'll just take you back to 1975.
Prime time approaches. Yeah.
That year. But you know, I have a history there because my uncle was Ramesh Thapar. This gentleman supported the emergency. Today, you know where the politics of that family is. It's my family. So, what I want to say is that all politicians from 1947, you just read some of the stuff that has even come out of Mr. Nehru, his mouth, and Tripu Daman's book, where he says, this media is out of control. Nehru saying this, said it in the floor of interim parliament, not even elected parliament. You know what he said?
It's a telling line.
He said, the media is out of control. We are trying to do good for this country. They are puncturing my great intention, my work, 1948. And this interim parliament, not an elected parliament, interim parliament brought the first amendment to our constitution, watering down free speech. To protect whom? The government. From you. So every government wants to control. Every party wants to control. It's up to you, as Zakka says, to become their rubber stamp. You can either choose, and let me tell you, a large number of editors who I admired turned out to be people of straw. One chap was taking a dictation from a broker to write an editorial for simile, and that person still has a damn job. Can you believe it? This is our country. Some have gone to jail. They still have jobs. You have people in our profession who are exposed and they are still heads of channels.
Right, so.
So, if you want to be corrupt, you will be corrupt. You could be a politician, you could be a judge, you could be in the press, you could be in business. Where does this word crony capitalism come from? Certain businessmen who want to align themselves with certain politicians. It comes down to you.
Thank you for that. Rajnish, what's your view on this?
I don't think anybody decides our agenda of the news of the day. We know what we have to do and we do it accordingly, according to our editorial meeting and nobody else. We get calls from everybody. As Rahul said, we get calls. We were getting calls when the UPA was in power.
And Zakka doesn't, so you guys must be doing something really right.
We are irrelevant. We're irrelevant, that's why.
Not in the least bit.
We're not important enough.
But
Clearly.
you're right. Calls do come. And this is something the public
I'm
always
saying it used to come earlier also. Not
conjectures on.
Who can
Yes.
say?
It's always been there.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers a lot of the questions that us, in the audience and as citizens and people who will see this going forward.
And one more thing.
Yes.
He mentioned about Nehru and everything at those days. I also want to say who got in the RTI? Us. Who watered down the RTI? BJP. Who enacted the Lokpal? Us. But where is the Lokpal right now? Nowhere. So let's understand. He said all governments. So I also need to put in the other aspect of the other government too. That's what I added this. So I gave an example of the other government. I need to give the example. You gave the example of one government. I gave the example of the other government.
You've been
That's what I kept saying, interim. It
proving
wasn't
my
even a
point that
government,
we
it was
don't
a
get
constituent assembly.
राजीव जी आप जरा बोलिए कुछ आप थोड़ा
You're proving my point, Rahul. This is what happens with us.
बोलिए.
अब बोलने को क्या बचा है? रजनीश ने कह दिया, if he justifies Ukraine kind of reporting, that लोग देखना पसंद करते हैं और TRP पर एक है, वो the fourth pillar of the democracy when is driven by the TRP, तब तो आप justify कर सकते हैं सिगरेट की मूवी को भी कि लोग देखना चाहते हैं तभी बनता है. You are more responsible. You cannot just take it so lightly. You are called fourth.
We are also running a business. So TRP matters.
So that's what that is whole
So
point.
can I ask the last
Whole
question
point
since
is
you've all
that
had a
you
go
prove
at
that
this
you are
one
not
and we're
honest.
wrapping
One
up.
second. No,
What is the business?
No. See,
This is the point, Ravina. Sorry, let me 10 seconds.
All right.
He has proved that journalism is not about the journalism; it is about the business now.
No, that's... Look, 1 second.
I don't think
want
he
to
said
speak
that.
for...
I don't
He didn't
think he
say, I
said
don't want
that.
to speak for Rajnish ji. He's
That we are also into the business, and that TRP matters.
No, sir.
No, I will
Sir,
come back to my
sir,
last
अभी
TRP
मैं टीचर
One
हूँ
second.
लड़के नहीं पढ़ना चाहते हैं मेरे
नहीं।
क्लास में भी नहीं पढ़ना चाहते
Rai
हैं
sahab, Rai sahab.
सबसे कम टाइम मिला आई एम बेसिकली अ टीचर
I know.
और मेरे क्लास में अगर बच्चे कम पढ़ना चाहते हैं तो आई जस्टिफाई क्योंकि बच्चे नहीं पढ़ना चाहते इसलिए मैं नहीं पढ़ा रहा हूँ मैं तो इसमें हूँ अगर बच्चे पढ़ेंगे तो पढ़ाऊंगा दिस इज समथिंग आई कैन नॉट डाइजेस्ट
No. I think
Rahul, actually we've run over time.
Last 30
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
I
Last
think we've
30
confused
seconds
the
and
issue
last
of
question we
TRPs.
are done.
I think
We've confused the issues of
We will not let you
TRPs.
go without saying.
TRPs only reflect interest. Okay, what you do with the TRPs, there are a lot of channels who get great TRPs, but they may not make money out of them.
No, precisely.
We know this, and you're a professional,
Yes.
you know this. So all I'm saying is that TRPs only tell you that, well, someone is watching you, it's a validation. That's why we thank our viewers. We don't thank them because we're getting now paid because of it. There's a very far correlation between what you earn and what you actually get on air. And you know this. So, ऐसा नहीं कहना चाहिए कि हम सिर्फ TRP कर रहे हैं और ये सब TRP के लिए तो फिर सर मैं वो क्या है वो सांप सपेरा वाला भी दिखा दूंगा.
नहीं कहा सर. मैंने नहीं कहा. रजनीश
अभी Shehzad's point of view, and then we're going to just wrap up with the last
because I'll wrap up in only 30 seconds, as Anand Ranganathan says, because you're talking about media control. INC banned entry into Punjab and Chandigarh of newspapers published outside. Indian Express protested by printing blank pages. Mamata Banerjee arrests journalists who exposed Amphan cut money. INC arrested jailed historians and writers critical of Nehru post-Indochina war. INC sacked the editor of HT, Mr. B.G. Varghese. Mamata Didi openly says, I have the video. Government advertisement in local newspaper will only be given if you publish positive news of the government. INC ordered blocking of 100 of URLs, including Twitter accounts of Shiv Arur, a well-known journalist, a former colleague of both people sitting here. INC wanted to burn copies of Time magazine because they labelled him, Mr. Manmohan Singh, as an underachiever. I don't think anybody else from any other party did that.
These things,
Shameless
so
Aam
like
Aadmi. 1 second. Now, why are you so afraid, ma'am? Don't block me.
I'm not afraid because
Don't block me.
I also
Aapka-
need to retort
aapki
to this.
kundli
So you
par-
can't keep on talking about INC.
Listen,
I
this
can
time-
say how Disha was at the environment, the girl who
Okay,
spoke against
okay,
environment,
let him finish.
for
Let him
who
finish.
was pro-environment,
We are talking
was
about
arrested
something
from
else. We are-
Karnataka
Shama
by
ji,
the present
Shama,
government.
Point that
Shama, let's
what-
because
what
we are
Rahul
40
said.
minutes over time.
Calls come from
We
everywhere.
can stop it.
And they
I mean, we are fine because if we go on with INC, I have to retort.
This
No,
is-
it's my
this
party
is-
being continuously INC did this, INC did that. That
Okay.
was not the topic today.
No,
so he
it's
can't
not.
go on.
And
You should stop him as an
it's
anchor.
not- it's-
INC
I'm
did
not an
this.
anchor,
INC,
ma'am.
I'm sorry. Moderator.
Horrendous job. But I've got you
Moderator.
all really riled up, and you've all
Okay.
said things you've
INC
never said
did this,
before.
INC
Can I
did
just have
that,
last
then I
word?
have to
Last
reply
word,
to
can I
it.
have? Can I have
Yes,
one last-
Shehzad, please, and we'll come back.
If he
Then-
continues with INC, I will reply to it. I will
Yeah,
not
of
stop
course,
the
that
debate.
is your role as the spokesperson of the Congress Party.
Hence
Yes.
proved Jodi media.
Okay, Shehzad. You've said your bit. Last question, and we're really going to wrap
Miss
this
Kohli,
up.
we got to go.
We
But I
have
want
to go.
ask you, have you been fair tonight?
I've been very
Have
fair.
you given every one of us
You know,
equal
I have
time?
done
I
my
think
best.
the audience will answer that. The
I
audience
have
will
done
answer.
my best.
Right, sir.
I have done my best.
You have not been
you
fair.
hijacked the program.
You've
You
spoken
hijacked
a
the
lot,
program.
Rahul. You've spoken a lot.
Ravina
But
has been fair.
I think so. And the idea was to talk about the business. So,
Ji is very fair.
okay, thank you very much. And I'm not allowed to ask my last question, but I did. You don't have to answer it. Would you, as news bosses, be happier if you were not forced to get involved in paid media? I'm asking the news bosses. Okay. Yes.
I mean, look, advertising is important. What do you mean
Paid
by
media.
paid media?
Paid slots, paid directed slots, content
No,
created
look,
for
as long as
brands,
you-
for
as
corporate
long as you
sponsors.
run-
It's
as
just a
long as you-
question
as long as you
because
run-
it's a revenue-hungry industry.
So I've been a reporter also, and there was a time I did a story on VLCC.
Yes.
And the story ran, and VLCC was going apoplectic, and I'm talking about the late 90s, and they were very big in those days. Everyone went to Vandana Luthra. And they said, this is not on, we're going to pull ads, this, that, the other. The TOI said, nothing doing, sorry. You can do what you want to. As long as you have, yes, as long as you specify that this particular thing is an advertorial, it's sponsored, etc. On the weekends, we definitely do run, advertorials, and we write there the advertorial.
Yes.
And,
That was a clarification. We who've run businesses know the compulsions. So it was a question for you guys
Yeah.
who are in the business,
Yeah.
for everyone to understand, because your
That's a
answers will go on
reality.
record.
They're reality across media. I mean,
Yes.
digital, TV.
So we've
print.
learned to live with it.
As long as you do not allow the agenda, exactly.
Okay. I think we are done with this. It was a nice, feisty, heated, yummy discussion.
I think
Thank
also
you
a few
very,
personal
very
scores.
much.
I think a few personal scores were also settled. I hope Shamaji goes more onto Rahul's channel.
I'm licking my lips.
That she
I
can't-
know you're licking your lips because
Anil,
you come.
that she can't decide.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Zakka. Pleasure to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I would request all of you to please give a moment of your time for the photo op. And I hope audience have enjoyed the session. And thank you so much for setting the tone up for the day for all of us and making it so wonderful session.